Hi everyone, this is Dr. Tina Mims, and we're going to calculate the growth rate percentage to forecast sales for a company called Positron Inc. Now this is out of our marketing metrics book by Dr. Gopala Ganesh, one of, if not the first to create a text and learning mechanisms on marketing metrics, something I myself used a volume of working for AT&T and Verizon. So let's take a look at what the textbook gave us. I went ahead and took the textbook and just set up my spreadsheet the same way. All I did was just type. Okay, so you can see that the textbook gave us this illustration and actually gave us some sales figures in thousands, and we're only having to do, so that would be 150,000, but this makes it a lot cleaner to look at the numbers. And the other thing I went ahead and did is I went ahead and summed these two columns, because clearly if these are the sales for each product, then the company-wide total is just simply the sum of the information we've been given. So again, I've got this in another video, but simply the equal SUM, parentheses open, and then the location of the numbers, B4, with a colon to say, hey, look for where I stop, which would be B8, then a parentheses closed. Don't forget those parentheses closed, because that'll really mess you up. And then once you have that, you can actually just drag and drop that over, because it will copy that equation wherever you slide it over to. Okay, so we have those two sums taken out of the way, which answers these two questions from the book. Now, one of the things the book already gave us was the answer to what the growth rate was in 2018, then the growth multiplier in 2019, and then a forecast for 2019 in total sales. Again, these are in thousands. So if we do the problem correctly, our numbers will match up. So there's an explanation of the reason we're doing this. Again, when we're in marketing, we work with sales figures all the time, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, and I've got a little note here on my spreadsheet, hey, look, all we have to do really quickly is take anything that was given to us for 2018, subtract it from, subtract 2017 from it, and then divide it by the previous year. So let me hang over that. Take 2018, subtract 2017, and divide by 2017. Be sure and format your answer with 1 decimal point. So let's see if we can't do that. So I'll go equal, and I will take 2018, and then I will divide it by, wait a minute, have to subtract first. I will subtract 2017. Now, we have to put these parentheses around there, because if we don't, oh my gosh, we're going to have such a bad error. Remember, we have to have that subtraction first, then divide by that previous year. Okay? Now, let's just double click this. The blue indicates the cell that's being used, C4. We're subtracting the red cell, which is B4, which is exactly what I explained. And then we're dividing by B4. Again, the reason is we're identifying the difference year over year and dividing by the previous year. That gives us the growth rate. Okay, so 10%, and looky there. Yay, we got that right. 10%. So that looks pretty good. So now that I've got my equation set up correctly, I can take this and copy and paste it all the way down. All right. Now, one of the things I like to do in making reports for executives is I like to kind of go in and say, highlight stuff that is in the red, okay? Sort of help them identify very quickly what is a problem area. So I'm just going to bold those numbers so we can be sure and see them. That's not what the textbook asks us to do, but I think it's a good habit to get in. Sometimes I'll even highlight some really very good numbers so that we can see, ooh, that was probably the best product out of the growth rate. Okay, let's move on to the growth multiplier. The simplest method to calculate the growth multiplier is to simply take the growth rate and add 1. Now remember, 10% is like 10 cents, right? So essentially what we're saying is we're going to take 1 and add it to our growth rate, and we will get 1.10. Now for this exercise, we want to bring it out to 3 decimal points. I'll show you why that's important when we get to comparing the answers to the textbook. So let's compare my calculation to the textbook's answer, 1.1. I'm on track again. All I did was add 1 to the growth rate percentage. And then remember, if you have trouble remembering how to look at a percentage, well, 10 cents is 10% of a dollar. So we know that 10 cents, when we write it out as a number, is 0.1. So that's why it winds up being a number format here. It's important to do the number format in this column. All right, so let's take that growth rate multiplier and just pull that down. Okay, clearly we can see again that this, because the growth rate itself percentage change was really high, our growth multiplier is also going to be bigger. Okay, now how do we do our sales forecast? Well, that's really very simple. We're going to take our growth multiplier and we're going to multiply it times the previous year's sales that we actually had. This will give us, in thousands, the estimate for the next year. So here again, we've taken the growth multiplier that we calculated. Real simple stuff. I mean, this is add, subtract, multiply, divide, right? So real simple stuff. We took the growth multiplier and multiplied it times the previous sales year. Okay, so I'm going to double click this so that you can see what's happening. Remember, blue letter and number represents this blue cell. Red letter and number represents that red cell. So we have multiplied the growth multiplier times the previous year's sales. Now that we've got that right, because I've compared it to what we were given as the textbook, that looks pretty awesome. We're doing really well. So let's just drag that all the way down. Okay, so our company-wide total sales should be somewhere around 940,000. Now, the textbook I noticed had perhaps a tiny typo because the textbook says 940.3. And I believe this is because there's a typo there. If we were to increase the decimals, we see the 3. And I think there was just a little typo in publishing that showed up. That's one of the reasons I wanted to be sure and carry this out 3 decimals here so I could see if there was anything hidden going on to maybe say what our textbook wound up differently. Okay, well, this is Dr. Tina Mims, and I hope this helped you explain growth rate as a percentage and a growth multiplier, how to calculate and use it in sales forecasting.